let's turn to what happened yesterday in Tennessee. So Democratic representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson have officially been expelled from the Tennessee state legislature. Both are young, both are black, both are in their 20s, and both of the lawmakers that have been expelled, just essentially fired, even though they were elected to their office. Both were peacefully protesting for gun reform. There was a third Democratic representative who was under threat of expulsion, and she narrowly survived by one vote, Representative Gloria Johnson, and she's a white woman. So that just looks as bad as it is. It is what it is. The Republicans in Tennessee are who we thought they were, and they are an extremist, insane party. They, unfortunately, in Tennessee, have a supermajority. I believe there's just like 23 or 22 Democrats versus 75 Republicans, which gives them this power to expel. Under Tennessee's Constitution, House or Senate, they're able to punish lawmakers for disorderly conduct with expulsion if they have the 2/3 necessary. So they certainly, with 75, have that threshold comfortably.
So it's 27-6 in the Senate, and then 75-22 with 2 vacancies in the General Assembly.
There you go.
It is absolutely overwhelming. To begin with, regardless of any of their the demonstration of these Democrats, day in and day out, they are just met with overwhelming resistance to anything that they could possibly try to enact.
Exactly. So, I mean, and this was just them flexing on them, saying, you're already just kind of a fly buzzing in my ear. We have all the power that we could ever want. We have all the money and the donors and the NRA connections. It doesn't matter.
It'd be a real shame if we just kicked you out of office.
Here, this is the lesson that they're trying to teach them. And luckily, there were a lot of protests, particularly by student groups, backing up these two state representatives. But here is Justin Jones speaking with a thunderous crowd behind him right before being expelled from the state legislature. Here he is. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Justin Pearson. Justin Pearson. I apologize. They're both named Justin. Okay, Justin Pearson.
We'll be back. I believe Memphis and Millington go send us back. And we're going to keep fighting for our communities because the status quo is not working. It's hurting people. It's killing people. And they're treating things like this as normal. We can never normalize the ending of democracy. We can never normalize the tyranny of the way that these people in positions of power are operating due to white supremacy and due to the maintenance of patriarchy. That's what we're up against. But we are going to fight it because we believe that there is a future that we can live into that is better than the present that we currently have.
Yeah, that actually was right after he was expelled. We're about to play one of the speeches from Justin Jones before he was expelled. But yeah, I mean, this is as undemocratic as it possibly could get. There's the Republican Party, which is all for, we're the free speech party, right? As Ron DeSantis bans books. We are the anti-cancel culture party as we expel state legislators for protesting in a way that we don't really like. It's a decorum conversation. They used a bullhorn, and that hurt my ears a little bit. So we're going to cancel you from the halls of power, even though, as Bradley has pointed out, all they have really is their voice, because they're so outnumbered by Republican state representatives in their place of work. So they have to use the bully pulpit, protest movements, peaceful protests in order to serve their constituents.
And this is how you use this particular seat when you are a state legislature in a blood red state like Tennessee.
Yeah.
This is how you... There is a reason that this week we are speaking about 3 Democratic members of the Tennessee State General Assembly when many other weeks we're not talking about the Tennessee State General Assembly. Like you said, they have to exploit what they have in terms of what they can do purely by way of agitation, purely by way of civil disobedience. And this is an impossible job that they have. They do not have a lot of resources to begin with, and this is an enormous load to bear on what I imagine is probably an office that has maybe 2 to 3 staff members. Gloria Johnson, the other member of the legislature, the white woman who was not expelled, mentioned that when she was critical of the governor before during COVID, they gave her a closet-sized office where she couldn't have in-person meetings due to social distancing because it was pre-vaccine COVID times while she was in the assembly. They can punish these people at will. This is not an easy thing for any of them to be doing. It would have been so much easier for them to be like their 9 other colleagues and just vote it down and not be the ones being expelled.
Right.
They are taking an enormous stand with massive amounts of oppression, regardless of the support that they have. And it is an extremely commendable thing that many, many, many other state lawmakers in states like this should be emulating. Because
Absolutely.
there's no other way. There is no other way to fight this entrenchment from the position that they're in.
And that's how much of a threat it is for them to use their voice, that the Republican majority, supermajority, wasn't just content with them being able to vote for progressive or liberal causes and have that vote really mean nothing because of the overwhelming number of Republican seats on the other side. They needed to get them out of there for daring to use their voice in a more meaningful way. And what's insane is that here we'll have Representative Justin Jones before the expulsion speak on this. In 2019, there was a Republican lawmaker named David Byrd who had been accused very credibly of sexual misconduct with teenagers when he was a high school basketball coach, including one of the victims who spoke to CNN playing a voicemail where David Byrd was apologizing to her for all of the pain he had essentially caused. He wasn't explicit in the allegations, but it was just another piece of evidence to show, well, there was something to apologize for. And now this guy Sexton, what is he, the speaker or the speaker? The Republican speaker, Sexton, at the time said, well, you have to balance things, and you don't want to overturn the will of the voters. That was a quote that he had. And here is Justin Jones calling out that very hypocrisy right before his expulsion. Do we have sound?
Yeah.
Oh, he's about to speak. Okay, gotcha.
Let's talk about expulsion. For years, one of your colleagues who was an admitted child molester sat in this chamber. No expulsion. One member sits in this chamber who was found guilty of domestic violence. No expulsion. We had a former speaker sit in this chamber who is now under federal investigation. No expulsion. We have a member still under federal investigation. No expulsion. We had a member pee in another member's chair in this chamber. No expulsion. In fact, they're in leadership, but in the governor's administration. And so once again, what you're saying to us, since you're trying to put us on trial, I'll say what you're really putting on trial is the state of Tennessee. What you're really showing for the world is holding up a mirror to a state that is going back to some dark, dark roots. A state in which the Ku Klux Klan was founded is now attempting another power grab by silencing the 2 youngest black representatives and one of the only women, Democratic women in this body. That's what this is about. Let us be real today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well said. That long list. I mean, that was more than the example that I laid out there. It's just there's people who domestic violence, Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All that matters is if you're on the red team.
It also just really helps, and I know that this might not seem super critical, but politics is about aesthetics, and these two young men are not only extremely, extremely talented orators and extremely, extremely skilled at getting their points across. It really, like, this is almost evocative of what was once, as he said, not only the birthplace of the Ku Klux Klan, but one of the strongest battlefields in the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Like,
I love that he made that connection.
These two men walk in the footsteps of people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, Stokely Carmichael, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say that, because this is fighting back against tyranny in America, and this is fighting back against a oppression that seems to be, if there were not any sort of protest or any sort of opposition to it, completely suffocating.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Before we do, let me just read this IM from Luck saying, in the headlines you mentioned the tweet from Rebecca Jones about their child being arrested. They are well-known grifters. Search her name and Rebecca Watson, and additional reporting has already come out that the kid was sending death threats, and it was far more serious than her tweets framing. I got that from the article. I still think we should flag it in the sense that there are a lot of kids that say things over Snapchat, and it's just important to know, like, all right, this is on the radar. But definitely, this was not just based on the tweet, but I appreciate the additional context.
Yeah, we were going to discuss that yesterday or the day before, and I only wanted to flag it because the Miami Herald reported on it.
Right, we waited
before more coverage of the tweet thread actually happened.
but Lux put in the additional context
yes.
that is necessary for that.